Hi, and welcome to Has God Heard From You today. I am so glad you tuned into us, and you all call somebody and let them know we're on the air. We have with us Miss Jan. It's Miss Jan Nichols. I always heard Miss Jan. Welcome to Has God Heard From Me
Thank
today.
you.
And you all do not want to miss this story. You can also go see if you recognize Miss Jan from, I think it was last year, Miss Jan, and we're going to get Mike on in part two. Miss Jan, the story that you have, first of all, I want to thank you for letting Mike Patterson, you all know him, know that you wanted to come on and share your testimony. And it touches the heart because I met Miss Jan, was it last year or year before?
About a year and a half.
That's when I met her. And even though at that time that I met you, I did an interview with her and her family. Her daughter was a donor. Um, and I really was hoping, you didn't know this, that's why I waited on the air to tell you. She's been here waiting, but I want to say it on the air that I was hoping and praying that one day, that when we were there, a year and a half ago, I was hoping and praying that one day you would want to come on and share your story. But I know it's touching to the heart,
Yes,
you
ma'am.
know. So we want Miss Jan, first of all, again, thank you. And we want you to share whatever is on your heart at this moment. Call somebody, you don't want to miss this.
Thank you. Well, I want to tell you a little bit about what has gone on in our life for the last 18 months. Actually, on April the 24th of 2017, the lives of my family was changed forever. Um, I received my nephew came to my house to tell me that my daughter, Cassie, had shot herself. I was very much in shock.
Yeah.
I was in Pineville, Louisiana, where I live. She was in Shreveport. So immediately I just said, I have to go. I have to go
Yes, of
to her.
course.
And so my nephew actually brought me to the hospital. All the way, I was just praying. At that point, they had not pronounced her dead. But as we got there and we were waiting, they were going to let us go see her. But somehow in my heart, I knew that that waiting meant what I didn't really want to hear.
Right, right.
But sure enough, in the wee hours of the morning on April 25th, they pronounced her time of death and told us that she was brain dead. And so at that point, she could know they had to pronounce the time of death.
Right, right.
And so there were two things that came to my mind. Of course, I was still very numb and very much in shock.
Yes.
But the first two things that came to my mind were number one, I knew where Cassie was.
Okay.
Cassie was not, her body was still there, but she was with Jesus.
Yes.
I had no doubt about that.
Yeah.
She had struggled with many things, and I don't know all the answers.
Yeah.
We never will.
Right.
But in a moment of weakness, she was weary, is all I know. And so I knew immediately that she was with Jesus. That was number one.
And that was that peace for you.
Yes.
That gave you some
That
sort of
peace
peace.
that passes
If you
all
could have
understanding.
peace in that.
Yes.
Yeah. Which one was it? The peace that surpasses
The
all
peace that
understanding?
passes all understanding,
Yeah.
because there's no way we can understand
None.
how
Yeah.
that happens.
Yes.
It's only God.
Yes.
But the second thing that came to my mind was that I wanted to be able to donate Cassie's organs. However, I found out very quickly that it wasn't a decision I had to make because Cassie was an organ donor.
Oh.
And she
okay.
had already made that decision, which did not surprise me because Cassie loved people. She loved everyone. She loved to give to everyone.
Wow.
And so we went through the process with the LOPA, which is the Louisiana Organ Procurement Agency.
Okay.
And they ask a lot of questions. So we went through all of that process. They were very helpful, and then we went home. And so we went to my son's house in Stonewall, and a few hours later, we tried to rest a little bit, but a few hours later, he came to me and told me that his supervisor, he's on staff at Broadmoor Baptist Church, and his
right.
supervisor had called him, and he had said, you know, Caleb, there are 2 men in our church that are in desperate need of kidneys.
Now, how long after this?
This was within a few hours.
Wow. Okay.
So, of course, they would keep Cassie's organs viable.
Right,
so,
right.
even though, you know, like I said, we knew where she was, but her
Right.
body was there.
Right.
And so, Caleb came to me and he said, Mom, there are 2 men in our church that need kidneys. And he said, one of them you know, his name is Greg Waldrop. And it just so happened that Greg, when my oldest son Caleb and my daughter Cassie were in their early teens, he was one of the youth leaders in our church.
Wow.
where we attended. And he had been on dialysis for quite a while and was really in desperate need of a kidney. And so, you know, he said, and the other one you don't know, his name is Mike Patterson. He sings in the choir. And so
Wow.
I said, well, Caleb, let's find out if we can designate her kidneys to someone. He made the phone call. He came back and said, yes, Mom, we can. At that point, we just said, okay, our prayer now is going to be that at least one of these men will be a match.
Yes.
At least one. We kept praying that.
Yes.
A few hours later that evening, Greg and his wife came over to bring food to the home, and he had shared with us that he didn't know how to react, how to respond, because we were at a lot in our time of loss, and yet he had received a call to get ready in case he was a match for Cassie's kidney. But when he walked into the house, I just went and hugged him, and I said, I'm praying that you will be able to get one of her kidneys. And so we just had a little time of sharing.
Wow.
It's kind of a blur of everything that went on, but that was, I think, on the Tuesday evening. And on Wednesday was our last time to go to visit with Cassie. We went Wednesday evening to the hospital, and they were going to harvest her organs within the next few hours. And so we spent time with her, kissed her hands and her feet, and shed a lot of tears. And when we had arrived at the hospital, that same man that had called my son Caleb to tell him about these 2 men met us at the elevator, and he said, Mike and Greg are both matches. They're both getting kidneys.
Miss Jan, and you all know when I get quiet, because I did this story, and we're going on a break. That's why I stopped her, because I want her to be able to without interruption, talk. Miss Jan, first of all, I did meet you, and we did cover that, you know, with an interview with the family. Go to the website if you want to see it. But I'm still sitting here like I've heard it. This is my first time hearing it, because I'm hearing it from Cassie's mom, you all. This is the mother of Cassie. And did you see how she received the... wait, how many minutes I have? How much time do I have? Because I want to just recap just a little. Cassie was pronounced on what day?
The 25th of April,
So
2017.
Okay, and then you met the guy because he was a church member of your son. So he is going to receive her kidney, and he comes over to comfort you. Yeah, so you all getting this picture right, but you haven't heard anything yet. That's why I stopped at the at this point because when we come back, you're going to hear her when she gets ready to meet at the elevator. We will be right back. I'm Deborah with Has God Heard From You Today? I'm spreading the focus of seeking God more, talking to God more, and listening.
God didn't stop performing miracles.
Come on.
The biblical days is still here. People stop believing.
So join us right here, Sundays, 3:30 p.m. We're encouraging others with our testimonies. If you have a testimony and you're not ashamed to tell it, call me. Has God heard from you today? Welcome back, and we're going to get right back with Miss Jan. And you can pick up wherever you want to.
Well, at that last time to visit with Cassie for a few moments, and we got the news that both Mike and Greg were a match, perfect match to
They
receive
go to the same church.
kidney.
Did we tell you all that?
Yes.
They go to the same
Yes.
church. Come on.
So,
Wow.
as I said, I've known Greg for many years, though I had not seen him in a very long time. But I'd never met Mike. After we left Cassie, I said to my son, I want to go and meet Mike and just speak to these men for just a moment.
Would you make them understand you're visiting your daughter for the last
Yes,
time here
ma'am.
on earth, because we will meet again, you
Yes.
know. But you're visiting your daughter, but this mother says, I want to go and meet and visit with the guys. Come on, because wow.
Caleb said, Mom, are you sure you don't have to do that? And I said, yes, Caleb, I do. I need to do that. So it was a different hospital. We went to the hospital where they were. Greg was actually in the hallway, and so we saw him, and he was right outside of Mike's room. I believe they were like right next door to each other.
Oh my.
But he was right outside of Mike's room, and so I walked in to the room. Mike was actually sitting up on the side of the bed. I just can see it as clearly as if it were yesterday. And I just walked over to him and I hugged him and I said, I'm so glad you're going to get one of my daughter's kidneys. Wow. And again, a lot of tears were shed. We just hugged for a while, and there were quite a few people that had come there that evening to visit. And so we talked and visited, and one of the men from the church also said, let's pray. Let's just have a prayer time here.
Yeah.
And so we did. And at the end of that prayer time, it was a very sweet time of prayer, but at the end of that, one of the young ladies that was there began to sing, Great is Thy Faithfulness.
Wow.
And there's no way to express to you how that moment felt.
Yeah.
But to know that God is faithful.
Yes.
Since that time, this was the greatest tragedy of our lives. As I said,
God
nothing will
Almighty.
ever be the same. To lose a child is very, very difficult. Yet the peace that I have by knowing where Cassie is what gives me strength. And I was raised in a Christian home. My dad was a minister. I've been a Christian, it seems, most of my life.
Yes,
I've known Jesus. I've had many ups and downs and trials. I've drifted away at different times, but He's always been there for me. And since this day, I have a new strength. I have a new desire. I feel an urgency to share what God has done in our family.
Miss Jan, I don't want to break in right here because there's such a peace right now with you sharing this story, and I know they can sense this, and the reason I know is because you call and tell, which is something else we prayed for. Lord, let them feel your presence.
Yes.
But this is such a sweet, tragic situation, but such a sweet spirit right in here. Mike calls me sweet spirit sometimes.
Yes.
But it's just a sweet presence in this place right now, and it's his presence. You all, I know you're going to rewind and rewind and rewind. So let me just recap this part right here. This mother, baby Cassie, was already a donor that you didn't know. And I want you to go over the part again in case they missed it. You came to the hospital to share the last of her, viewing her body or whatever, your peace moments with her. Yet after this, you want to go and visit with the men who are going to receive her kidneys, and they're right next to each other. And you had to come from another hospital to. If y'all don't see God's hand in this, these men in the same place. I'm trying to be calm from the last interview, from the last testimony. But if y'all can't see God's hand in this,
That's right.
come
Only
on, Miss
God.
Danny. Y'all can't see this.
Only God, because I don't know how to explain it.
That's what I'm
It's just
saying.
God. It's just God.
And in scripture, I'm thinking, lean not to, okay, you all over there, lean not to your own understanding. And
All your ways acknowledge Him,
yeah,
and He will direct your path.
and I understand why Caleb said, Mom, are you sure? And then when you meet Mike, you knew Greg.
Right.
Go to the website. I did an interview on Greg as well. Go to the internet, but you wanted to meet Mike. And I heard when that singing and worshiping went out, it went throughout that floor or something. Mike is going to join us in part 2 because you all have stayed in contact. But I want you to go back to sharing with them. You know, I'm always trying to find that to get you to come to know who we know, and that's God and Jesus. The peace. We need to talk about that peace in that situation and get a phone call like that many parents are getting now from their young people, different situation, but the hurt for the parents, I'm sure, it's hard. But because you already had a connection, and we're not perfect people, you all listen to that. We do wrong things. We have to, there's another scripture, you have to die daily to self or whatever. We have bad thoughts. We're no different. I'm on TV, but even as the pastor says, Pastor Jack Lewis, you all of Temple of Christ, I notice sometimes when he's praying an altar prayer, Miss Jan, or he's preparing, he always tells us to condition our hearts and minds, whether it's prayer meeting, whether it's altar prayer on Sundays, to condition your mind. And you know why he says that? How many of you, just think about it, you're praying, and here's a thought in your mind. You're praying, and here's a thought in your mind. I have to stop saying, Lord, will you move that? I'm trying to pray.
That's
You
right.
know? So, but the peace, we want to talk about that peace you had at that moment to help some mothers right now that's going through that this very day, have gotten some bad news from their loved one been hurt, shot, killed. In your case, it was not like that, but it's still hurting because you're a mother. If they have, you need that peace from him,
Yes.
you know.
The Bible verse that says it's a peace beyond all understanding, you cannot understand, you cannot explain it, but it's
Yeah, yeah.
it's there because if you know Him, it's there.
If you know him,
If you know Him,
and she's talking about
Jesus.
Jesus, you all. Jesus. You all, Miss Chan, again, since we only have a few seconds, God's timing really is not our timing. Once I met you, like I said, a year and a half ago, I wouldn't have thought that I would have received this call saying, Miss Jan is ready to tell her story. You all, if you don't know Jesus, and we're going to take a break right now, if you don't know Jesus, just say, Father, I want you to be my Father God. Your son, you gave your son for me. Just tell him right now. Then as you're going through these moments that Miss Jan went through, and it's still a process.
Absolutely.
Because Jan had babies. You know, I don't mean little girls. I meant the little girls, right?
Yes.
So
Two
it's still a
daughters.
process. So you still want that peace, you all. We'll tell you a little more about it. And when Mike comes on, you know he's going to be telling you about Jesus. You all, we will be right back with Miss Jan. Thank you, Miss Jan. Welcome back, you all. And let me tell you what I'm experiencing right now. The sweetness. Have you heard this song, He's Sweet, I Know? This is some sweetness the presence is so sweet right now in here, you know. And I want to just leave this time with you if you have something else you want to say. Yeah.
There are a lot of things that I want to say.
We're going to do a part two. You'll be able to. Come on. If you don't get them out now, we'll get them out in part two.
As I said a moment ago, since we lost Cassie, the strength that God has given to all of us
Yes.
has been amazing. I think about a song that is an older song, but it says, His strength is perfect when our strength is gone. He'll carry us when we can't carry on. And that is truly what we've experienced over the last year and a half. Yes, there are difficult days. There are days that and people will say, you can't question God, don't question God. But through different trials of my life, I have said, why, God, why?
Yeah.
I don't understand this, why? But, He is God. He can handle our questions.
Yes, ma'am.
And whether or not He gives us the answer as at the time we want it, that may or may not happen.
Yes.
But what I have realized is that when we have trials and we have problems, we may turn away from Him, but He never leaves us. He is faithful. God is faithful, and great is His faithfulness.
Yes, true. Wow, that's something you would say that today and this morning, which would be Wednesday. You're seeing us on a Sunday. For some reason, I was outside, and I just stood up as we were packing, preparing to come where we film. I literally said those words, great is thy faithfulness, oh God. Not knowing you're going to say that right now. I was just saying, you really are great. And even though you don't do it in our timing,
That's right.
you really are who you say you are. You really do come through for us.
Absolutely.
No matter what.
Always. Always.
And we're not just saying that. Your relationship is personal. She mentioned questioning God, and she asked Him, but that's her relationship. Your relationship is personal. And so she knew with her relationship, she can go to him. He knows what we're thinking. He knows anyway, you all. If you only knew, and some of you do, if you only knew how great and what you're missing without knowing him. If you only knew. If you remember the last lady, her name was Deborah, she said in the midst of being confined, in the midst of her troubles, in the midst of what she was doing, she said one word, Jesus. Lord, if I tell you. You all, we're going to have Miss Jan back in another segment, and we're going to bring Mike and all those things that you want to say, you can say then. We only have 1 minute. Even though your situation, and I'll bring you back on, hopefully being able to help somebody else who's going through the loss of a loved one right now, at this moment, what would you say to them for is that peace? Because they need that peace.
Yes. It may not be in your timing, but God is there. You just have to call on him. You just have to allow him to give you the strength that only he can give. Only God can give you that strength.
She said, allow him simply means ask him. God does not force himself upon us, you all, but he's right there.
Yes.
He will never leave us nor forsake us. Have there been times that you will feel that way? Yes. But his peace that Miss Jan is talking about, I've had to ask for it so. I can't count the souls.
That's right.
Many times. Sometimes it's not right there at that exact moment, but I can just walk away and, oh, wow. That's the peace you want, you all. If you don't know Jesus, I think we have to wind down. Miss Jan, your baby's name was Cassie.
Yes.
And I hope and pray that you have been helped with Miss Jan's story. You all, and I don't know if he telling, are you telling, you know I'll stop in a minute. You telling me to stop. I have to stop, and y'all know I will go over. You have to do me like this here. Stop. You all, join us next week. We will show part 2 of Miss Jan, and Mike will be here too. Tune in next week. Thank you.
If you would like to share your testimony or advertise your business or an upcoming event on this program, please call 318-222-2954. Also, visit our website at www.hasgodheardfromutoday.org.